Hi, everybody. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, Texas on Saturday, October the 19th, and welcome to our commentary. I have to begin with what is going on in Cuba right now. If you have not heard, there's no electricity in Cuba. The entire island of Cuba, 10 million people, plus even the tourist resorts. So some of the tourists, I believe, they're without power too. The airport, I saw a picture of the international airport in Havana. No lights. The entire island is without lights. Now, this is not because of an earthquake or hurricane, although, by the way, there is apparently another one coming, but it has nothing to do with hurricanes or earthquakes or some terrible misfortune. It's a couple of things. Number one, they don't have any money to buy electricity or oil, basically. They don't have any electricity. The country has pretty much doesn't have the cash to buy energy. And I guess they're not going to get any subsidized energy anytime soon, which is another interesting story. The other thing too, and I've heard this from other people in the past. I remember several years ago when a fellow from Cuba, an engineer from Cuba, was telling me that one of the big problems that they have is that many of their plants, many of their airplanes, automobiles, and other mechanical things were from the old Soviet Union and some of the other Soviet republics like Ukraine and Hungary and Yugoslavia and all of that, and even the Soviet Union itself. So they have all these older plants, and they don't have any parts for them because these were not market sales. These were sort of sales made within the Commonwealth. So if you bought an airplane from Ukraine, let's say, or you got an airplane from Ukraine, then it's very difficult to buy parts. And I'm talking about Ukraine before the collapse of the Soviet Union, not right now. And if you bought, let's say, an airplane from Ukraine, you simply cannot find the parts because they're not available in the market. That's one explanation I heard. The same with tractors. So they're having a huge problem with these power plants because they have not been updated. They probably don't have spare parts for them. And the entire country has literally shut down. I mean, just literally shut down. Now, the president of Cuba, or the president, it's probably in name only. I still think Raul Castro is running the country. But the president of Cuba went on, I guess, TV, whoever can watch it, or in social media, and he blamed it on the embargo, which is what they always do, blame it on the embargo. But here's the thing about the embargo. The embargo doesn't stop Mexico, Brazil, any European country, China, any country, Japan, from doing business with them. They could easily buy parts from these countries if they could. They don't have the money to do it, or nobody wants to give them any more credit because they don't pay back their loans. So what an absolute mess going on in Cuba. I mean, it's absolute mess. I'm going to try to see if we can do a video on this in the next couple of days, but it's just an absolute mess. And of course, the people in the middle of all of this, they don't have any lights. I mean, no refrigerator, nothing. I mean, you're just living in an island without lights, without electricity. What a mess. I don't know how else to explain it. And of course, it touches me because, as most of you probably know, I was born in Cuba. I came here with my parents back in the 1960s. So, anything that happens in Cuba touches me in a very special way, of course. I've grown up in the United States, but I've always been very much aware of Cuba. My parents, I think, did a very good job of keeping all three of us, my brother, my sister, and I, in tune with our Cuban heritage and always reminding us where we came from and all of that. And here we are. It really hurts me. It hurts me to see what is happening to the island where I was born and to a country that has been completely destroyed by this communist regime. I hope this is the end of it. I really do. I hope literally the lights have gone out on communism in Cuba. Now, what replaces it? Well, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough because there isn't really, somebody to step in. I suppose in situations like these, you could always have a military situation or maybe foreign intervention. There'd be a great opportunity for the United States maybe to to help Cuba, but with the condition that they have to change their leadership. I certainly hope we put that condition on it. But what a human tragedy. I mean, this is beyond politics. This is just a humanitarian crisis of tremendous proportion going on in Cuba, going on in Cuba. And you still have the regime, of course, the government blaming it on the embargo, which of course has nothing to do with this. The embargo has nothing to do with this. This is the failure of Cuban communism. This is what this is. Everybody can see it now. Everybody can just see it. The failure of a communist regime. And in a way, it's kind of a fitting end that it would collapse or die because the lights went out. That's almost poetic. I mean, it would almost be a poetic way of ending this thing. I sure hope so. I sure hope so. I sure hope so. You know, I remember when we first came to the United States that, you know, we would talk, you know, in my home with my parents, we would talk about, you know, when will this island that we love so much, when will it be free again? And, you know, who knew? Everybody speculated. But, you know, even in their darkest secrets, I don't think my parents ever imagined that things would get this bad. I mean, and they are bad. When you don't have any lights, it cannot get any worse. So, you know, I just hope it all works out in Cuba, but I just have a funny feeling that it's going to get worse if it gets any better. If it gets any better. What a mess. What a mess. I you know, as I said, both of my parents have passed away. My uncles, my aunts, who came in that generation of Cubans who came to the United States, all of them are now gone. And I remember many times talking to them about the Cuba that they remember. And to think that this is what the Castro regime has done to Cuba, it just makes me angry. It just makes me angry. And I don't know where Raul Castro is. I understand he's not well, and all kinds of rumors. Back up a week or so ago, there were rumors that he had died. I don't, you know, I'm sure he's around somewhere, but I'm wondering if maybe he doesn't wish he could die before this thing collapses, because I don't see how they get out of this. I just don't see how they get out of this mess that they've created. So say a prayer for Cuba. Say a prayer for Cuba. I intend to, and hope that at least, you know, things down there get squared away sometime soon, because what a mess. What an absolute mess. The country has no lights. No lights. From coast to coast, from one tip of the island to the other, no lights. What a mess. I just could never imagine something like that happening to a country. Now, if you have an earthquake or a hurricane or something, that's different. But that's not what happened here. That's not what happened here. What we're seeing here is the collapse of this corrupt and terrible regime that has devastated Cuba for all these years. So as I said before I leave the subject, maybe it is kind of a poetic ending to this terrible regime, that it would collapse because literally the lights went out. What a great book that would make someday. Somebody writing a book about the history of Cuba and the end of the Castro regime, the end of communism when the lights went out. What a poetic title that would be, to say the least. I've got a post over at the American Thinker today, changing topics here, where I talk about a very important anniversary today, 1469. So that would make it, what is it, 400, 500, whatever it is, almost 450, 440, whatever the number is. But it was on this day in 1469 that a couple of young people were married. Ferdinand and Isabella. They were a young couple who got married, king and queen of Spain. They sort of brought the Spanish Union together. And of course, they did some amazing things, including, of course, spearheading Columbus's trips to the New World. And they were the ones who kicked out the Muslims out of Spain, incredibly the same year, 1492. And they became quite a force, Ferdinand and Isabella. So I wrote a post about them at the American Thinker today, thinking about their marriage and another anniversary of their marriage, and that incredible, absolutely incredible, country that they built, the great Spain that became the powerhouse of its time. So Ferdinand and Isabel, they died young, both of them. You know, I don't think they made it to 50 years old, both of them. They died young, but they left their mark, to say the least, in not only Spanish history, but in world history. Well, speaking of the lights going out or something falling apart, I have a post coming out tomorrow, Sunday, about the city of LA, Los Angeles, and how the city is on the brink of going broke. Another great blue city. In fact, the title of the post is Go Blue, Go Broke, or Go Woke, Go. No, wait a minute. Go Woke, Go Broke. I think that's Go Blue, Go Broke, something like that. I forgot the title of it. I think it is Go Blue, Go Broke. That's it. Go Blue, Go Broke. But anyway, it's about the city of Los Angeles. Another example of another Democrat city being run by incompetent people who seem to be more concerned about reparations and about hating Trump than they are about getting the job done. You know, hopefully people in some of these places are waking up to the reality of just how poorly these people are being governed by these Democrats, whether it's New York, whether it's Baltimore, whether it's Chicago, whether it's LA, San Francisco. I mean, you name it. These cities are being run by some real incompetent people who are doing a lot of harm to their cities and a lot of harm to their people, obviously. And now the latest one, of course, is the city of Los Angeles. So check out my post on Sunday morning about the city of LA going broke. I guess they can avoid it if they can make some radical changes, but making radical changes usually means you got to take something from somebody. And in the case of California, what's happened out there is these public sector unions have become so powerful. The salaries and benefits of these workers are so high that, you know, frankly, people who pay taxes are saying, you know what, I'll go live somewhere else because this is unaffordable. And that's how the state of California is collapsing as well. What a mess. Go blue, and you're going to go broke. That's one way to put it. Well, thank you for watching today, and I want to again say a prayer for a reasonable ending to what's happening in Cuba, where the lights have all gone out in this beautiful island where I was born. The lights have gone out, and I don't know what's going to happen. But it would be a poetic justice if the government, if the lights went out and brought down the corrupt communist government with it. What a poetic way of ending these whatever number of years it is of communism in Cuba. The great disaster, the great failure of communism in Cuba. Thank you for watching. This is Silvio Canto in Dallas, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye, everybody.